Hi, I'm Phil Simpson. I'm a booking agent at Strada Music Agency, and I'm going to be chatting today about how I choose venues for my artists to play in. So the first thing to say is that in mostly all cases I already know the kind of venues that I want my artists to be playing in, and this stems from a combination of discussions I might have with my artists or their management early on, and my experience. We of course share the same goals and aims, and it's my job to help them realise that. I think it's important before thinking about actual venues that I'm thinking about what the reasoning is behind doing the tour and what areas we might want to cover on a run of dates. I'm a big believer in being proactive when it comes to booking dates, and I want to have an idea in my head of where we want to play rather than reacting to inquiries from people wanting to book the artist. I think it's important to have a strategy, and just because someone wants to book the artist doesn't always mean it has to fit into the run of dates that I'm planning, even if it might distract or dilute what we're trying to do. I think the strategy has to come first. Even if there isn't as such a reason to tour, and maybe the motivation behind the dates is purely income based, which is fine, I think it's still helpful to hang something on, even if it's just for your understanding of what the tour looks like. So I'm thinking about towns, cities, regions, and which ones will form the focus of the tour, and where we're going to have the best chance of getting the artist's audience to come out. I might look at previous show sales figures data. I might consult with the artist about their audience data from streaming or social media. And I think if you know where the audience is, it's a good starting point. Though I do think it's important to stretch a bit and go to some places that are maybe less certain. In venue terms for folk acts, we're already quite limited because the number of venues that are appropriate for artists in this genre might not always equal the number of venue options in a given town for artists in other genres, say. We'll be in most cases wanting a seated show, probably with a capacity of less than 500. And not every town has a space which fits that criteria. So it comes back to thinking about more the areas of the country that we want to make sure are covered. And if there isn't an option in my preferred town, what other venue options might there be nearby which could draw from the same area? Especially for the bigger markets, planning ahead, I tend to think about what venue I would ultimately like my artist to be playing. What's the goal? And then I'd work backwards, tracing a route on how we can get from where we are now to that point. It's usually a case of starting small, taking a strategic route upwards, and perhaps maybe taking a festival or a support slot in that area, or a combination of the two, as part of regular shows, which might help us along the way. It can take some time. I want to be choosing the size of venue very carefully as well. It's important to think of the next step, and you're always better being able to sell out, even if it's a small venue, than half filling a room. It doesn't matter if the capacity is 30 or 300, a sellout is a sellout. Once you've got a sellout, I think you've got a proven demonstration of your draw, and you then have somewhere to progress to. So when I'm booking shows, I'm always thinking about what the next step might look like and what the implications are of doing this gig now versus this gig, etc. It's also important to think about timing. Is this a big year when there is a new album out? If so, the venue choice should reflect that, and it should be ambitious in size and also in profile. If it's a ticking over year, you'll want somewhere easy, somewhere familiar, somewhere that doesn't take too much work to pack out. Using London as an example, which is probably a bad example actually because it's its own ecosystem there, but I might start an artist small, somewhere like the Seven Jazz Quarters, and then progress through to say the Slaughtered Lamb or St Pancras Old Church or the Lexington. And then on a big year when there's a new album, when it really matters, go for an ambitious profile gig like Union Chapel or King's Place. I'd then go back to a smaller venue that I know the artist can sell out just to regain that momentum if that big gig hadn't sold out. And you generally can't always be increasing in capacity, but I think if you play the supply and demand ratio just right, you can give the perception that you are always on the up. And I think the perceived profile is really what it's about. I might also think about whether or not a promoter is involved. Most of the time, in my case, there probably is. And if I've worked with a promoter for a certain act previously, I'll be thinking, is it appropriate to go to the same promoter for this next show, or does the artist or myself have any loyalties with them or with another? Is that promoter the right fit? Is there anyone else that I could pitch to who's showing an interest, or anyone else that is involved with a festival that we might want to get in on, or etc. I think the whole preference for me overall is to work with a promoter rather than booking directly with the venue, because the right promoter can help an artist grow. I think we need more promoters in the folk world, actually. So I think, just to summarise, firstly, the reasoning behind the run is important. I think it's important to have a longer term plan so you can visualise where you ultimately want to be and then take steps to realise the plan. I think the venue size and the frequency of shows is really important. If you can be consistently leaving people wanting more, that's a really good position to be in. Think about who's involved, whether it's a promoter that can help grow you, or you might benefit from an association with, or perhaps if it's a money-making exercise outside of an album cycle, you could do a self-hire in a tested market and minimise costs and maximise profit. But I think for me as an agent, the number one point that I'm always starting from is, what's the plan? Anyway, I hope this has been useful. Big thanks to English Folk Expo for all the amazing work they do. I think we're all winging it in this game to a point, and if we can be helping each other out in this tiny niche of the industry that we operate in, I think it's good for us all. So, thanks so much.